Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for requesting this private session work that Teresa and I are going to do right now. I thought it would be good to focus in on grief, obviously, since that's what we spent the majority of the show talking about. And if you haven't listened to the episode yet, I'm going to make sure that you also have that in the email I sent you along with this. So listen to the episode to learn more, but we are going to do an actual tapping round right now so that you can experience this for yourself. So how much grief would you say you still have going on personally, Teresa? Don't mind sharing.
I've done a lot of work, obviously, on grief, but I'd say I still have some. I think the biggest thing that I still grieve, and I'll probably get emotional with this, but just grandkids, always wanting to have lots of grandkids. And the grief that goes along with my daughters not having all the children that they want. So yeah, I would say I still have, you can tell, it gets me a little emotional. Yeah. There's probably a little bit still there for sure. I grieve more for them, I think, as well as myself.
Yeah. So not having those experiences that you kind of dreamed of having.
Yeah.
That's difficult. And are there any other ways that it shows up for you in waves?
I don't think, not that I can think of.
Okay. I know this is going to be really helpful to listeners that are more closely, that are closer to the trauma having happened, and really help to resolve that. But I also know it's going to be really helpful, even to someone like you who, I mean, how many years has it been since your personal losses?
Oh, it's been many, many years. My youngest daughter is 37.
Okay.
And so so it would have been 35 years ago when I had my last miscarriage.
Gotcha.
Which was pretty traumatic. Mm-hmm.
But I would imagine the work that you do brings it up for you a lot. And
yeah, at times.
Forces you to face it in good ways and probably in ways that you'd rather not have to revisit.
Yeah, at times for sure. When I'm talking to someone that is experiencing something similar to what I experienced or what my daughters have experienced, of course.
When were your daughters going through all of this?
I would say 9 years ago with my oldest daughter, and probably 6 years with my middle daughter.
Yeah.
So it's pretty recent.
Okay.
I would say.
Gotcha. So most people don't really have to like stir it up to feel it because it's still pretty raw. But with something that's 35 years old or whatever, you might have to kind of tap into it a little bit. But when you do kind of like think about what might be left there, and we also think about that scale, that 0 to 10, where do you feel like you are in your feelings of loss and grief and sadness or other feelings that you might have?
Towards the grief and miscarriages and all of that. Yeah. I would say just because of the work that I've done, not very high. I'm going to say maybe a 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. So I want everybody else listening to also assess that. And, where are you right now? How's it feeling for you? 0 to 10, with 10 being just the most grief and, unbearable sadness or depression or anger or whatever it is that you have going on. And 0 being just feeling very healed and at peace with everything. Write down your number. Like we talked about on the show, it's very important to understand the shifts that are getting made. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of do like follow the leader. You're just going to repeat after me, Teresa. So I'm going to tap and say something. You're going to tap the same point and also say it. And anybody listening is going to do the same thing. Now, if I say something that can be personalized to a better level for you at home that are tapping along, just change the words. No harm in it. And if you say it and it's not totally, in alignment, it's not going to make anything different for you or make you feel worse. So there's no harm that can be done here, but we are going to work through just kind of feelings of grief and loss. So we're going to start on that karate chop point on the side of the hand. Another
Okay.
recommendation before you begin would be to hydrate. If you haven't had water, energy likes to move through water, and it can stagnate and, and stay stuck a lot easier when we're not hydrated. And then also, after you've done this, you will have moved a lot of energy. It's also important to keep hydrating. So that's just a pro tip there. But
Okay.
I'm going to have you repeat after me. Even though I'm feeling a great deal of grief,
Even though I'm feeling a great deal of grief,
I honor and accept myself.
I honor and accept myself.
Even though this loss feels so big and I will never be the same,
Even though this loss feels so big and I will never be the same,
I'm listening to my feelings and I love and accept myself.
I'm listening to my feelings and I love and accept myself.
Even though I'm suffering through terrible grief right now,
Even though I'm suffering through terrible grief right now,
I deeply and completely accept myself where I'm at.
I deeply and completely accept myself for where I'm at.
We're going to start at the top of the head now and start going through the other points. I can't see how I'll ever get back to functioning normally again.
I can't see how I'll ever get back to functioning normal again.
And the eyebrow point. I have bouts of uncontrollable sobbing and sadness.
I have bouts of uncontrollable sadness.
Side of the eye. I feel like what I've held dearest has been completely lost.
I feel like what I have held
Dearest
dearest
has
has been lost.
completely lost. Yes. Under the eye. And I am so raw and vulnerable.
And I'm so raw and vulnerable.
All of these dreams I had that will never come true.
All of these dreams that I've had will never come true.
And I don't think tapping could possibly help me work through my grief.
And I don't think tapping will possibly help me work through all of my grief.
Because it is so overpowering and it consumes me.
Because it is so overempowering and consumes me.
I've lost so much.
I've lost so much.
There's so much despair and sadness.
There's so much despair and sadness.
Moving on with my life feels disrespectful.
Moving on with my life feels disrespectful.
And day-to-day life feels trivial and irrelevant.
Day-to-day life feels trivial and irrelevant.
Especially compared to what I'm going through right now.
Especially compared to what I'm going through right now.
I don't want to get back to living it.
I don't want to get back to living it.
You can't make me.
You can't make me.
I think that if I let go of this grief,
I think if I let go of this grief,
it might mean that I've forgotten how much that life mattered to me.
it might mean that I might forget how much that life meant to me.
And it mattered so much that I can't let it go.
It mattered so much that I can't let it go.
I won't let it go.
I won't let it go.
Feels like my heart is broken.
Feels like my heart is broken.
And the waves of grief come over me at times.
And the waves of grief come over me at times.
Nothing worked out how I hoped it would.
Nothing worked out as I hoped it would.
I have so many mixed emotions.
I have so many mixed emotions.
And I know I need to grieve.
And I know I need to grieve.
It's a natural part of the process, and I don't have to rush it.
It's a natural part of the process, and I don't have to rush it.
I don't need to put on a happy face for anyone if I'm not feeling it.
I don't have to put on a happy face for anyone if I'm not feeling it.
I don't need to speed this up for anyone.
I don't need to speed this up for anyone.
I can handle this however I choose and take whatever time I need.
I can handle this however I choose and take as much time as I need.
I can begin when I'm ready.
I can begin when I'm ready.
Going at my own pace is both comforting and empowering.
Going at my own pace is both comforting and empowering.
What would it take for me to feel connected?
What would it take for me to feel connected
To the one that I lost,
to the one that I lost,
without that connection being through grief?
without that connection being through grief?
Because even though their suffering is over,
That even though their suffering is over,
I feel the need to hold on to it in my body.
I feel the need to hold on to it in my body.
But they wouldn't want this for me.
But they would not want this for me.
So how can I be gentle with myself through this process?
So how can I be gentle through this process for myself?
Still so much shock in my system.
Still so much shock in my system.
Allowing myself to release it down to a cellular level.
I'm trying to release this to a cellular level.
Allowing the healing process to begin.
Allowing the healing process to begin.
Open to the possibility
Open to the possibility
that there are memories and lessons to be grateful for.
there are memories and lessons to be grateful for.
Underneath all this grief and sadness.
Underneath all this grief and sadness,
I'm healing my broken heart
I'm healing my broken heart
so it can send and receive love fully.
so it can send and receive love.
I'm learning to live and feel good when that feels right.
I'm learning to feel good and love when that's right.
And to grieve when I feel that too.
And to grieve when I feel that too.
All right, now we're going to go to the side of the thumb. We're going to tap through fingers. I'm taking the time to feel my emotions.
I'm taking the time to feel my emotions.
Take deep breaths.
Take deep breaths.
And allow the tears to flow when I feel them.
And allow the tears to flow when I feel them.
I am loving and accepting myself right where I am.
I am loving and accepting myself right where I am.
However I am feeling.
However I am feeling.
And however I'm currently handling it.
And however I'm currently handling it.
I trust that eventually this will pass.
I trust that eventually this will pass.
As I lovingly accept myself and these raw feelings.
As I accept myself and these raw feelings.
I am enough.
I am enough.
And I deserve to love myself.
And I deserve to love myself.
And treat myself compassionately through this process.
And treat myself compassionately through this process.
All right, now I want you to take a nice deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. You can stretch. Some people feel like yawning. If you were yawning through that at all, that's a great sign because that's all just energetic blockages coming free and energy moving. And then just kind of settle back into yourself here and back to that feeling that we started with about the grief. And tell me where you feel like you are on that scale of 0 to 10 now.
feel great. I'd say a 1 or a 0.
People are so reluctant to go to the 0, especially with grief, because that means like, oh crap, I let go of it. And what does that mean? But if you're feeling it, that's awesome. That's great. So what was that like for you? What came up for you, or what kind of thoughts went through your head while we were doing that?
Just really going back to those times, when my daughter, especially with my daughters, them saying, that they had a miscarriage. But they didn't stay long. I quickly shifted it to my grandchildren that I have now, that I guess I always think about it. It's part of the journey. And so, yeah, those memories came, but they shifted very quickly.
Yeah. Can you feel like what I was talking about during the interview, that kind of more clarity, more groundedness, that kind of feeling? Do you feel that shift?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a little hard to put a finger on, but once you've actually done it and you feel it, it's like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I always said it's like the most natural or the most familiar, unfamiliar feeling, because it's like, it's kind of where we're meant to be. And it's like our best, most capable self coming through. And yet it's so foreign to so many of us, because we're so often in that stressed state, that fight or flight, that reactive state. And it really allows us to peel back that layer. So great work.
It almost gives me the feeling of, because I do go to the chiropractor, but that energy that I describe it as like almost like a tingly sort of feeling.
I can relate to that. I see a chiropractor also. So kind of an alignment in both the physical and mental sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a great analogy. I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, for anybody that tapped along with us, I love hearing from people. So if you've done this round, I love to hear like, hey, what was your number when you started? What was your number when you ended? And just kind of like I was talking with Teresa here, like what came up for you? What did you experience? Feel free to shoot me an email. I geek out on hearing that kind of stuff. And I love to hear what's changed or what kind of transformation people have had. So feel free, Teresa at teresalearlevine.com. And I'll bet Teresa would love to hear from you too. So what's your email address?
It's, we'll do Teresa.Reiniger60@gmail.com.
Awesome. And thank you guys for tapping along with us. I hope this served you or blessed you in some way today. Thank you.
Thank you.